Hello friends, today, we have an exciting tutorial lined up for you, as we dive into the dynamic world of web development. In this video, we will be exploring how to create a dynamic dependent drop-down box using React and PHP. Drop-down boxes are a common user interface element, but making them dynamic, which adds a whole new layer of functionality to your web applications. Before we jump into the coding, let me give you a quick overview of what we will be building. Imagine having a set of drop-downs, where the options in one drop-down depend on the selection made in another. It is a powerful feature, often used in scenarios like filtering data based on user preferences or refining search results. Now let's start discussing this topic. So here is our testing database. And under this, we have one country state city table, and under this table, we have already inserted some country, their state and their city data. So we will use this table for build dynamic dependent country, state and city select box. So here, state select box data will be depend on country option selection. And city select box data will be depend on state select box selection. Now here, we have start this building this feature. So here, we have opened React framework under this text editor. If you want to learn how to download and install React, so we have put that video tutorial link under this video description, so you can view that tutorial and learn how to download and install React in our computer. In React for build dynamic dependent select box, so first we have to create component in it. So here, we have create one component folder under this source directory. And under this folder, we have create one new file, and this file we have saved with name like dynamic dropdown.javascript file. So under this file, we will create component for dynamic dependent dropdown box. And at the top, we are importing React, along with two essential hooks like useState and useEffect. Here useState is a hook that allows us to add state to our functional components. In the context of our dynamic dropdown, we will use this hook to manage the state of our dropdown options. And useEffect is another powerful hook. It enables us to perform side effects in our components. In this case, we will leverage it to fetch data or perform actions when the component mounts or when certain dependencies change. So, by importing these hooks, we are setting the stage for building a responsive and dynamic dropdown that reacts to user interactions. Now here, we have create function with named dynamic dropdown, and this function is backbone of our dynamic dropdown feature. Inside it, we will be orchestrating the logic that makes our dropdown come alive. Under this function, first we have to write return statement. In React component, return statement is a render function which specifies what should be rendered on the screen. Under this, first we have paste this HTML code. And after this, we have to make country select box, so here we have to write select tag with attribute class name is equal to form select. Under this tag, we have create one option tag with text like select country. After this, we have to make state select box, so here, we have to write select tag with class name attribute is equal to form select. And under this, we have create one option tag with text like select state. Next we have to write one select box for select city, so here, we have to write select tag with class name attribute is equal to form select. And under this, we have create one option tag with text like select city. So here our country, state and city select box is ready, and now first, we want to fill country select box with dynamic data. So inside our functional component, we are initializing a piece of state using the useState hook. And here, we have created a state variable with named countries and a corresponding function with a named set countries to update that state. The useState hook takes an initial value and in our case, and we are starting with an empty array. Now we want to send AJAX request to PHP API for fetch countries data. So here we have to write use effect hook. So this hook is used for side effects in functional components, and it takes a function as its argument. So under this, we have declare an asynchronous arrow function with named fetch countries. This function will be responsible for fetching data. Under this function, we have to write constant response variable is equal to fetch function. And under this function, we have to define PHP API endpoint. So here, we have send asynchronous request to specified endpoint. And this await keyword is used to wait for the response to be resolved. Next we have to write constant data variable is equal to await response.json function. So here, once the response has been received, then it will asynchronously passes the response body as JSON. And again await keyword is used to ensure that we wait for parsing to complete. Next we have called setCountries function with data as argument. So here, we have update the state variable countries value by using this setCountries function with data which we have fetched. And it will triggers a re-render of the component with the updated data. After this, we have called this fetch countries function inside this use effect hook. So it will initialize the data fetching process when the component mounts. That means when page load, then it will call this function, which will set the value of countries variable. Now we have goes to API directory, and under this, we have already made fetch.php file, so we have to open it. And under this file, we have paste this header function code. This code will set the header for handle cross-domain HTTP request. Next, we have to make database connection, so here, we have to write $connect variable is equal to new PDO class object with 3 argument. So in first argument, we have to write MySQL host and database name. In second argument, we have to define username as root. And in third argument, we have to define password as password, so it will make database connection. Now we want to fetch unique country name, so here we have to write $query variable is equal to select distinct country from country state city table, so this query will fetch unique country name. Below this query, we have to write $statement variable is equal to $connect variable with query method with $query variable as argument. So this query will execute above query and store result in $statement variable. Now for fetch country data, here we have to write countries variable is equal to $statement variable with fetch all method with argument like PDO class fetch associative array method. So it will fetch data from $statement variable and store into countries table in an array format. Now we want to send it to client in JSON format, so here we have to write PHP echo statement with JSON encode function with $countries variable as argument. So it will send data in JSON format, and now we have goes to dynamic dropdown component. And here, we want to fill country select box with data, so here we have to write open and close bracket. And between this, we have to write countries variable.map function with 2 argument like country and index variable. Under this function, we have to write option tag with key attribute is equal to index variable and value attribute is equal to country.country variable. And in option text, we have to write country.country variable, So this code will fill country select box with data. After this, we want to export this component, so here we have to write export default with component name dynamic dropdown, so we can use this component in other file. Now we have goes to app.jsx file, and under this file, first we have comment this code. And here, we have already import bootstrap library, and now we want to import dynamic dropdown component. So here, we have to write import statement with component name from path of component file. So this code will import dynamic dropdown component under this file. After this, we have goes into app function, and first comment this code, return statement code. And here, we have rendering the dynamic dropdown component in a React application. So when React encounters this expression, it will create an instance of the dynamic dropdown component and insert it into virtual DOM, which will eventually be rendered to the actual DOM. So for display output in browser, first we have goes to command prompt. And here, we have run this command, which will start server and provide us base URL of this React application. So friends, here in browser, we have open base URL, and here we can see in that country, state and city drop-down has been displayed on web page. And here, we can see in that country select box has been filled with country data. And state and city select box has not any data, this because state select box data has been depend on the selection of country select box. So when we have select country, this state select box must be filled with that selected country state data. So for this, we have goes to dynamic drop-down component, and first we have to create one state variable with named states, and a corresponding function with named set states, which will update that state. And here this use state hook takes an initial value with an empty array, and this array will eventually hold data for our drop-down options. And same way for city select box, we have create another state variable with named cities and a corresponding function with named set cities, which will update that state. And here also, we have set use state hook with initial value as empty array. Now here, we have declares one function with named handle country change. And this function takes an event parameter, which is likely an event object, which representing a change event when the user selects a country from select box. Under this function, we have to write selected country variable is equal to event.target.value. So here it will extract the selected value from event object and store country name under this selected country variable. After this, we have to write response variable is equal to await fetch function. And under this function, we have to define PHP API endpoint. So here, we have asynchronous fetch request is made to an API endpoint. And in API URL, we have includes a query parameter with named country with the selected country value. And the await keyword is used to wait for the response. So once the response is received, then it will passes the response body as JSON. After this, we have called setStates function with data variable as argument. So this setStates function, which will be used to update the state variable states with the data fetched from the API. And in states variable, we have represents a list of states that related to the selected country. And lastly, we have called setCities function with blank array as argument. So this setCities function is used to set the state variable cities to an empty array as value. So here our function is ready. Now we have goes to fetch.php file. And here, we have to write if statement, and under condition, we have to write PHP is set function, and in argument, we have to write $get country variable. If this variable value is set, then it will execute if block of code, and under this block, we will write PHP code for fetch state data, and in else block, it will fetch country data. So here, in if block, we have to write $query variable is equal to select query like. Select distinct state from country state city table, where country is equal to question mark. Below this query, we have to write $statement variable is equal to $connect variable with prepare method, and in argument, we have to write $query variable, so it will prepare query for execution. Now for execute this query, we have to write $statement variable with execute method. And in argument, we have to write $get country variable, so it will execute above query. Now for get states data, so here, we have to write $states variable is equal to $statement variable with fetch all method, with PDO class with fetch associative array method. So it will store states data under this $states variable. Now we want to send this data to client in JSON format. So here, we have to write PHP echo statement with JSON encode function, and in argument, we have to write $states variable, so it will send data in JSON string format. Now we have goes to dynamic dropdown component, and first we want to call this handle country change function. So here, in country select box, we have to write on change attribute is equal to handle country change function. So when we have select country, then it will called handle country change function, and fill state select box. Now for fill state select box with data, so here, we have to write open and close bracket, and between this, we have to write states.map function, with two argument like state and index variable. Under this function, we have to write option tag, with key is equal to index variable. After this, we have to write value attribute is equal to state.state variable. And in option text, we have to write state.state variable, so this code will fill state select box with data. Now here in browser, first we have refreshed web page, and after refresh of web page, we can see 3 drop-down select box on web page, and now we have select country America. So in state select box, we can see that state select box has been filled with America country state data. Now we want to fill city select box with selected state city data, so for this, we have goes to dynamic dropdown component. And here we declare handle state change asynchronous function with event as parameter. Under this function, we have to write selected state variable is equal to event.target.value. Here this code will extracts selected value from the event object. Next, we have to write constant response variable is equal to await fetch function. And under this function, we have to define API endpoint, and in endpoint, we have include query parameter state is equal to select state value. Below this, we have to write constant data variable is equal to await response.json function. So once the response is received, then it will passes the response body as JSON. Next we have called setCities function with data variable as parameter. So this setCities function is used to update the state variable cities with data fetch from API. Here cities variable value represents a list of cities related to selected state. So here our function is ready. Now we have goes to fetch.php file. And here, we have to write else if statement, and under condition, we have to write PHP is set function, and in argument, we have to write $get_state variable. If this variable value is set, then it will execute else block of code, and under this block, we have to write $query variable is equal to select distinct city from country state city table, where state is equal to question mark, so this select query will fetch selected state city data. Now we have to write $statement variable is equal to $connect variable. With prepare method, and in parameter, we have to write $query variable, so it will make query for execution. Now for execute query, we have to write $statement variable with execute method. And in parameter, we have to write $getState variable, so it will execute above query. After this, we have to write $cities variable is equal to $statement variable. With fetch all method, and in parameter, we have to write PDO class fetch associative array method. So this code will store city data under $cities variable, and we want to send to client in JSON format. So here, we have to write PHP echo statement with JSON encode function, and in parameter, we have to write $cities variable, so it will send data in JSON format. And here, our PHP code is ready. Now we have goes to dynamic dropdown component. And here, we want to call handle state change function when we select state from select box. So here, in state select box, we have to write onChange attribute is equal to handle state change function. So this function will call when we have select state from state select box, then city select box will be filled with data. Now for fill city select box with data, so here, we have to write open and close bracket, and between this, we have to write cities variable.map function with two parameter like city and index variable. And under this function, we have to write option tag with key attribute is equal to index variable. And after this, we have to write value attribute is equal to city.city variable. And in option text, we have to write city.city variable, so it will fill city select box with data. So here, our code is ready. Now we have to check output in browser. So friends, here we have refreshed web page, and after refresh of web page, we can see country, state and city select box. Now first, we have to select America from country select box, and after selecting country, here state select box has been filled with America state data, and from state select box. Now we have select New York state, and after selecting state, here we can see that city select box has been filled with New York state city, so here state select box data has been depend on country select box. And city select box data has been depend on state select box selected option. So this way, dynamic dependent dropdown feature has been work, and here we have made this functionality in React by using PHP. If you have any questions, suggestions, or if there is a specific topic you had like me to cover in future tutorials, feel free to let me know in the comments. Your feedback is valuable. Thanks for joining me on this coding journey. Happy coding, and I will see you in the next tutorial.